question is, how can we move it fast? Particularly in the context of very rapidly growing GDP.
Therefore, very important that we start doing one very important thing, that is decoupling GDP growth from GHG emission growth. And
we kindly request everyone to stay back for the launch of a report by Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala and Mr. Anson. To discuss ways to tackle climate change, the very building that we're seated in stands as a prime example of sustainability. Our research park is on the way to be powered entirely by renewable energy, and our goal is to not just stop with the research park, but to replicate it in many such commercial complexes throughout India. So today, we are here to launch a report which will be a roadmap to any commercial complex to move towards green energy. So may I please request Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala and Mr. Anson Sando to come up to stage to give us an insight to our report titled Zero to Green.
Thank you. The final session of the day. We are going to do a launch of a report prepared by our team, and I request Anson to maybe begin by giving you a very brief of the report.
thank you, Prof. Very good evening to all. As a part of the Research Park team, I'd like to actually welcome you all again to what we fondly refer to as the Theatre of Dreams. And my name is Anson, and I have with me a man that needs no introduction, but a phenomena that we just call Prof. We're here to talk about our efforts at IIT Madras and IIT Madras Research Park around driving the net zero energy transition. Today, we'll be highlighting our efforts around what we're doing to transition the commercial sector in towards being 100% renewably powered.
As we begin, I want to point out that for a very long time we have been talking about moving to net zero. We give talks, we also work on technology, but how far are we? Can we do something today to at least move a little bit? This is something that we conceived of almost a couple of years back, that there is something that is doable today and not tomorrow. And something that is not just doable today, but makes commercial sense. Just like in the morning I mentioned that today I don't need to tell anybody to use set up a solar plant and create solar-based electricity. If you can find land, either on your rooftop or even nearby, and you can put up solar and generate electricity and wheel it to your place, you do that, because solar-based electricity is the lowest cost electricity. Because it's already make commercial sense, we are in the same manner talking about getting the commercial buildings to net zero at the earliest possible.
Just by setting some context in terms of what's the scenario here in India. On the one hand, India is currently the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. But at the same time, we're also 103rd in the country ranking list when it comes to per capita emissions. And therein lies this dichotomy of a growing developing nation and a large population that is estimated to also see the largest increase in energy demand among any other country in the world until 2040. And it is therefore very important that we start doing one very important thing, that is decoupling GDP growth from GHG emission growth. And that is in the essence of what we've been trying to do here at the Research Park.
Again, I want to point out that today solar-based electricity costs very little. Wind-based electricity costs very little. But yet, 76% of electricity comes from coal and crude oil. And this is not going down rapidly. Question is, how can we move it fast? Particularly in the context of very rapidly growing GDP, which means as the economy expands and industrialization takes place, India is estimated to see the largest increase in energy demand of any country in the world until 2040. So it is imperative that India get to net zero while growing its GDP. We cannot say that stop growing. Can we say our growth will take place at the rate at which we want, but can we do it with getting to net zero? And we strongly believe that R&D and innovation can get us there by 2047.
The strategy that we've adopted here at the Research Park, or the way in which we see this, is that the well-to-do will invest in technology if there is a return on the investment. And that is primarily what we've been trying to demonstrate and highlight through the launch of this report here today.
So once again, if there is a return on investment, if I pay less by adopting green electricity than by using fossil fuel-based electricity, there is no question I'll adopt it. In this research park, I will adopt it. In other places, I will adopt it. And that is the approach. Take it such that it can give you positive return on investment. Of course, policy interventions and some incentives may be required for transition. Not so much incentives. Policy intervention will be required so that one does not slow down. But other than that, it is the return on investment which will be the primary driver.
And we sort of set the context here, but we always started looking at where do we start when we talk about going green. And when we looked at the numbers, we saw a startling statistic that showed that 75% of electricity in the country is consumed by three sectors: that of the commercial sector, industrial, and what we call high-income group housing. And what we saw further was that the cost of electricity, especially in the commercial sector, was on average of 40% more than any other sector or category that we're talking about here. This is also at a time when India is building 700 to 900 million square meters of urban area every year. The second point being commercial complexes that we're talking about here are estimated to triple in number by 2030 when we're looking at 2010 levels. And just to paint a different kind of a picture for perspective, that means that India is estimated to build the equivalent of a Chicago-like city every year for the next decade. That is the amount of construction and building that is projected to see come up in India over the next decade or so. And that's why we've looked at this one sector as the place to start and for others to follow. While having said this, we also believe that the commercial sector is also the one that has the highest propensity to deploy capital, again, as Professor mentioned, if there is a return on investment. Because as business people in commercial enterprises, all one's really looking for is there enough value for the money that I'm investing in something? And that's essentially what we're trying to demonstrate at the Research Park through this report.
So I think this is very important. The commercial sector has surplus funds. It parks somewhere or it invests somewhere. As long as we say invest in going to net zero and you are going to make more money than otherwise, I don't think there's a shortage of money there. If the commercial sector can borrow from banks and pay the right interest and still win. That's what we are saying by adopting this. And industry and high-income group housing is not too far. Industry can also do a very similar thing, and high-income group housing will follow.
So what are we going to do? What's the approach here? Two very simple things. We want to demonstrate that the technology is ready, deployable at scale, and what makes things scale is the economic viability of doing this. What we're saying is we'll start with the IIT Madras Research Park campus, which is a 1.2 million square feet commercial complex-like setup. And we're on average, every single day, consuming about 70,000 units. That's why we feel that this...
70,000 units.
70,000 units.
70,000 units. 70 megawatt hour of electricity we consume here, including this place. This is the research park, 1.2 million square feet, and we consume 70,000 units. And our average cost of electricity, including a little bit of diesel that we use whenever the power breaks down, is 12 rupee 31 paise. And this is a commercial, this is what we actually pay today. And what we are saying that as we move to net zero, we will pay less.
How are we trying to do this? These are based on fundamental points that we've reached today in the market. Solar and wind, for example, the most primary forms of renewable energy generation that we see in the country, is today the cheapest form of electricity generation available anywhere in the world. They cost anywhere between 2 rupees to 3 rupees per kilowatt hour. The second factor, or the mechanism through which we're doing this, is what we call the open access mechanism, through which we're essentially setting up solar and wind plants outside the campus and wheeling it in, or transporting the electricity generated to the research park campus. And for every unit of electricity that we're transporting, we see that we are paying the transmission and distribution grid rupee and 25 paise per kilowatt hour. The third most overlooked and often well camouflaged aspect of the charges that we see in our electricity bill is demand charges, or in other words, the fixed charge that we pay the electricity board irrespective of how much we consume on a daily or monthly basis. This totals up to almost 2 rupees currently.
I think, so what are we saying? We have put solar on the rooftop, but that doesn't generate more than 5 to 7% of the electricity that this place consumes. So what do? We get the land somewhere else, and we don't need to do it ourselves. We can do it in a group captive mode where multiple companies are getting together and getting a land somewhere else, and somebody else is doing it for us. We pay them the charges, and we get the electricity generated there between 2 to 3 rupees per kilowatt hour, all cost inclusive, including the capital cost, depreciation, interest rate. We are able to get between 2 to 3 rupees per kilowatt hour. Then there is a way by which we can wheel that energy out here. And that costs about a rupee 25. And then we pay demand charges to the electricity board, because whatever we consume based on the total maximum that we consume, that much demand charges that we have to pay. Now we are paying that today 2 rupees. What we are saying, the missing piece is this is storage. The storage itself can be of two kinds, a thermal storage and a battery storage. This complex, 40% of the electricity consumed is in cooling. And we can use thermal storage for that. What is a thermal storage? Basically, we chill the water and then circulate it throughout the building for cooling it. We can chill the water and store it in a chilled water storage in an insulated tank. That's what we are doing here in the basement. And therefore, whenever we have excess electricity, we chill the water. Whenever we have deficit of electricity, we use that water instead of using a chiller. That's what we do. And the second that we do is a battery. The battery that we use, lithium-ion battery that we use, whenever there is excess electricity, we store it. Now the cost of that is high. The battery storage per kilowatt hour frankly speaking, works out to be more like closer to 7 rupee or 7 rupee 50 paise per kilowatt hour. But actually, we don't need to store all the electricity. We find 2/3 of the electricity coming from solar and wind we can use directly. And 1/3 of the electricity, we actually have to use it in the, store it in the battery. So effective cost per unit works out to be 2 rupees 67 per kilowatt hour.
The other piece that we're really trying to drive and push the envelope around is our work around enhancing energy efficiency, especially in the heating and cooling aspects. As Professor mentioned, if 40% of my 70,000 units every single day is going in cooling this building and keeping us comfortable, then there's really so much that we can do to enhance that and enable us to essentially save on how much we need to spend at the first place. As Professor mentioned.
This is very important and not often understood. In the morning, I was having a conversation with someone who had done this work for the Infosys building, and he was saying that, in fact, it can be very, very significant. In all our future buildings, we need to pay attention to that. Enhancing energy efficiency, largely in heating and cooling, to ensure that we use minimum electricity. That will help. And that gives a return on investment on its own. Here we are not even considering that. But that's one thing that we do. And the final thing.
The other piece that we'll really need to make work is that when we talk about green, we need to understand the fundamental factors of what makes solar and wind limited. Is that we need this RE power available 24/7, and we want to do this through an energy management system, which is essentially going to optimize and real-time manage all of the energy that is going to be utilized in this campus, such that we want to make the power that is used here renewable across the day and across the year.
And the most interesting thing is the final result, the final line. Today we pay 12 rupees 31 paise, and that is 90% fossil fuel based energy. We then started working on, if we get to 90% renewable energy, solar and wind, and 10% fossil fuel based energy. Using all this, our cost goes down from 12 rupee 37 paise to 9 rupee 87 paise out here in today's rate, taking into account everything. That can happen today, and it is not the most optimized cost because I think we are kind of pioneers in actually doing this. What have we done? We have, of course, built every piece of it enough to demonstrate the cost. Not yet fully done. Fully done will take another year, where we have already contracted the 8 or 9 megawatt hour, 8 megawatt hour renewable energy, and we'll be getting that soon. It will take us by the end of the year. Storage, we have built a smaller storage. We are now adding more storage. Chilled water storage we have done, but we have done all the costing. The costing includes all the investment, depreciation, and interest rate. Interest rate that we have taken is about 10%.
Yeah.
Interest rate 10%. And our cost comes down from 12 rupee 31 paise that a commercial building or us have to pay today to 9 rupee 87 paise.
And just to give a small example in terms of the optimization that we're doing now, as we speak, the thermal storage system that's at the basement of this complex, which is the 300,000 liter tank that we've built and deployed, is actually peak shaving right now because electricity costs more in Tamil Nadu between 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're in fact paying 25% more for the electricity that we generate between these times. And what we've done is, through utilizing this storage system, we've effectively reduced it by the amount that we are using for our cooling as we speak. That's just one note that we wanted to point out. What does this mean? What is the impact? The hard-hitting fact is that today as we speak, we can save the research park 33 lakh rupees per month. That is a 24% savings every month, month on month, for an ROI return period of 5.5 years.
So this is from 90% fossil fuel based electricity to 90% renewable energy, and our cost comes down. Our saving is 32 lakhs per month, close to 33 lakhs per month. This is today's number. Tomorrow's number may get better.
And what we're saying is that this approach, as we speak, is scalable across the country. There is nothing limiting us from doing this starting now. And there are about 40,000 odd commercial complexes in the country like the research park. They can effectively follow a similar approach, and billions of square feet is coming up. Like I said, the Chicago city number, every year we're building that much. And so if every building can follow this approach, there's so much more savings that they can enable right from the get-go. And as storage costs tumble, industrial and the high-income group housing sector can also follow a similar approach.
So the numbers that we have taken for lithium-ion battery is today's number. The numbers that we have taken for thermal storage are today's numbers. Neither of them are at the scale at which we will be doing this. As we do this, the cost will further tumble. The question that we are asking, can all commercial, industrial, and HIC housing go to 90%? That will make India reach close to 70% renewable energy. And this is doable in the next 10 years, starting today. By next year, we would have full demo out here, and from there onwards, everything is commercial. One can move, and one can help each other getting there at the earliest possible. And the hard facts, the detailed numbers are actually given in the report, and we can share with them even more detailed data with anyone who is interested.
Zero to Green, the report that we're launching here, is not only an approach, but from what we see, a vision to accelerate the decarbonization trajectory for the entire sector. But we're saying we want to start with buildings. And that's why we're here today, and we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And in fact, as I conclude, I'd actually like to invite you all to join us in these efforts, especially the startups that are situated out of here or attending today. We want to work with each and every one of you because this is a collective effort, and we feel like this is the starting point to decarbonization. And thank you very much again for joining us, and we will zero to green this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ashok and Mr. Anson, for giving us an insight to the report. With that note, I'd like to invite Mr. Mahesh Anand, co-chair of IGBC Chennai chapter, Mr. Narasimhan Santanam, co-founder and director of Energy Alternatives India, and Ms. Shweta Kochar, PKC Management Consulting. We'd like you to join us on stage to launch the report.
This report has been jointly done by IIT Madras Research Park team, by Shweta Kochar, and CII has backed us. So we decided that not to delay this report, but launch this report today. So here is the report. We can open the report. And the report will also be available online. We have a few physical copies that are also available. And this is the report that we will make it available online. Please. Change it like that. May we now request you to say a few words?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for giving us this honor to be part of this wonderful project. Thanks, Prof. and Anston. I think I took this word from you. Thank you so much. And for me, it's been a sudden invite because I'm the co-chair for the Chennai chapter of Indian Green Building Council. My chairman was traveling, so I have to just attend this event. So till the time I met Professor, I didn't know what is it for actually, to be only honest. So I was just listening to him, talking to somebody and explaining things like the amount of reduction it can come commercially. That's more important. Like, sustainability, everybody talks about sustainability. But giving commercial viability for sustainability is more important for the people to adopt it. So in that way, I think it's going to be a one of its kind, first of its kind, pioneering in this. And we would like to support them from IGBC and back them up fully, because IGBC is one of the leading green building council across the globe. We are the second largest in the globe with 10.27 billion green footprint. And we have about 31 ratings. Of course, green building is the first rating. So today, as like what Professor was talking about, we have established that a green building will cost about 7% lesser than a normal building. That's what we have done. So with this renewable energy coming in, I think it should further go up, and we'll be towards the goal what the Indian government has set, or the Prime Minister has given in the COP26 as by 2070, India will become net zero. Probably some of us will be available alive to see that. And with that, I think I would want to congratulate and thank you so much for this wonderful data what you have prepared. And people should use it. And commercial building is one of the most largest, I would say, amongst the building, whatever we have. It's about 40%. That's what the report says. And so we look forward for this being adopted by everybody. And also one last thing, which before I conclude, Indian Building Council conducts its National Congress, which comes every year, and this comes to Chennai after 13 years. You can block the diaries, 22nd, 23rd, 24th of November. It's in the Chennai Trade Center. The theme of it is advancing net zero through decarbonization. So that's what we were talking about here. And please do visit us during that time. Thank you so much.
So just a quick note, the report overall lays out a technology roadmap for building a net zero commercial complex, a clear technology roadmap for how it needs to be done, and also an economic viability pathway for it. So for anybody looking for something impactful to build in the green space, I think it's a great opportunity to pick up and build out of. And I want to thank, we at PKC, it's been a wonderful experience building out the financial viability model for the Zero to Green report. And I thank our powerhouse, Prof. and Anson, for pulling us in and giving us an enjoyable experience of doing this together. More power to all the work.
We needed an auditor to go through our numbers, and we asked her to join us, and she did that. We are now open to a few questions, quick questions and answers. Very few before you break out for dinner. So any questions, since all of us are here, we can attempt to answer your questions. Yes. Please, can someone take the microphone there and there? Can someone run and take the microphone? One there and then one there.
First of all, fantastic presentation. I think the way you both presented was so compelling and so powerful, so thank you. I learned so much, and congratulations for doing this transition. Great to see the savings as well. I had, Prof, one question for you. It's a loaded question. I know you are saying the fact that you moved your energy from fossil fuels to, in a way, renewable. You've saved money, plus you've reduced your carbon emissions, of course. Just one question for you. If we were to go the next step, for instance, tomorrow if IIT Madras Research Park were to build an extension, and is there a way of making the entire building net zero by design? Just the construction part. Here you're moved from, your operations to, in a way, you're making it green. But if you were to build one tomorrow, what would you do differently from a sustainability perspective? Sorry, it's a loaded question, but I can't think of a better
No,
person
thank
to
you very
answer.
much. I think question is understood. We did mention that. I think when we built this building, started about 10 years back, we had the climate and how do you save energy in mind, but not to the extent that we would do it today. So when we build our extension, we are going to start our extension fairly soon. We will very much keep that in mind, and every material that we use, how do we do this, the orientation, we have done a lot of it already today, but a lot more will be done. A lot of work will be done on heating and cooling. How do we reduce the amount of energy consumed? So on the one hand, we will make everything green, the source green, and number two, reduce the energy consumption. That's clear, the approach. This is how to make the source green. This report is focusing on. The next focus will be how to reduce the energy consumption. And that will certainly be the next. There was a question there, this side.
So Professor, can I add to that question? What Professor is saying is possible today because there are 7,000 products which are certified as Green Pro, completely green certified products, right? Cement, steel, everything. So this will emit almost like 30-40% less carbon into the atmosphere. So
we'll
7,000
certainly
products
like
are
to
there.
use that.
Yeah.
We'd like to do that. We'll highlight that. Yes, there was a question on this side. Yes.
Good evening, Professor. I had a very fundamental question. Because Chennai is coastal, was there a viability study done on using wind energy or tidal energy as compared to solar? And does it work out to be more expensive, cheaper? If you can give us some information on that.
So, in the morning also I mentioned that solar today costs 2 rupees per kilowatt hour. Projection is, in next 10 years, we'll get it to rupee 50 per kilowatt hour. So that is a total cost, all inclusive. It includes about 10% interest rate, 10 to 11%. Wind today costs 2 rupees 75 paise, 2 rupee 80 paise, 2 rupee 90 paise. That's a wind farms that we build on land. The wind energy that we use from the ocean is much more expensive today. I don't have the actual number, but it will be approximately 15 rupees. And I think our next step in India will be how to reduce that, because then we can expand that also. Tidal energy, personally, I've spent considerable time on it, but I don't think we are going to get that substantial amount of green electricity from there. But finally, the tidal is also wind energy. It's actually causes due to wind. And if you can start capturing wind energy in the coast and little bit beyond, I think we would be doing the first step.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time,
Yeah,
I'm told.
one last question, that side, please, towards that. And then we have to rush on.
Sure.
My limitation, they can stay. Yes.
Sir, it's not about the energy.
Not clear?
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. It's not about the energy, it's about the climate change. We will talk about the air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, everything, but what about light pollution? Any view on that?
What about that?
What about
Light pollution.
light?
Light. LIGHT, light pollution.
Light pollution. Pollution from the light.
I think there are number of things, light, sound, what do we want? I think there is a lot of things to be done in the world. We are currently focused on, can we reverse this climate change by not doing GHG emission and move, therefore, our fuel from fossil fuel and coal to green electricity. That is what this report is. There are a lot of other problems. We are not trying to solve other problems. There is a lot of issues related to water. We have not addressed all of that. So there are a lot of other issues that will be there, but there is one specific thing that we are focused on. Yes, there is one quick question here. Yes. 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 Yeah, speak. I'll repeat the question.
We are
I think 25 degree or I don't know, 25.5 degrees centigrade should be used by everyone. If you're not using it, it's our mistake. So, well, I think that construction of building, can we do that? I think those are all work that we need to do. There is a lot of work done and a lot of green materials. All that is fine. We are saying what beyond that, can we quickly move to net zero? Yes, quick last question, please.
What you have done. There is I think, statement you have made. The return of investment is in 5.5.
Can't hear you.
The return of investment is 5.5 years. This is what I saw.
Return on investment, yeah.
In that, I think you have compared the operational cost as well as the capital expenses.
Yeah.
What is the kind of capital expenses?
So details are there in the report. All the we'll put it on the net. The report will be available on the net, IIT Research Park website, probably tonight.
Yes.
And the details are there. I don't remember all the numbers, but we have taken all the investment into account. We have taken the interest and everything else we have to account. Remember that many of the plants that we will set up will actually last for 25 years. Solar, for example, will last for 25 years. Wind will last for, but in 5.5 years we will be able to recover our expenditure. It is only based on that our board is supporting us. Our board would not support us if it was lasting more. I think we will wind up out here.
Thank you.
Any
Just one quick
question?
note. So on the costs, when we say 5.5, it includes all OPEX, CAPEX, depreciation on that, interest cost on the OPEX made because somebody has an opportunity cost of putting in that money upfront. All put together, it says an ROI of 5.5. But yeah, more details are in the report as Prof mentioned.
Thank you. We'll have it.
Thank you very much. We wind up here. There is dinner, and I think our team will be available for questions and answers. Anson will be here. Unfortunately, I have another conference that I have to attend online, and I am rushing towards that. Thank you.